You're listening to Inside the Village, where all news is local and no topic is off limits.
So help me, Bob, it's bully in the alley. Hey, bully in the alley. So help me, Bob.
It's Inside the Village for Friday, October 13th, 2023, with Michael Friscolanti, Editor-in-Chief, here at Village Media. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Derek Turner, Executive Producer, is in the room. Okay, boys, Friday the 13th. Triskaidekaphobia, I believe is what they call it if you have a fear of Friday the 13th.
I totally forgot it was Friday the 13th until you just said that.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea. It's Friday. And it's like...
Any fears? Any fears?
Heights, a little bit.
Heights?
Yeah.
Heights, okay. But that's not a Friday the 13th thing, right?
It could be. You could fall on Friday the 13th.
You could. So we know that Derek will not go into high places today.
Yeah. It feels like Friday the 13th. There's a lot of stuff crashing together all at the same time, and let's just hope we all make it through.
And is it, fair point, is it twice a year that it happens, that there's a Friday the 13th?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not really into all that stuff. It doesn't really like, oh my God.
I'm boring you,
is
really what you're saying.
What else is new? No, it doesn't really do it for me. I mean, a lot of people are into that stuff,
Yeah.
But
I'm not. I just thought it was neat to mention.
No, it is.
Do you know where it came from?
No.
Any takers?
Is that neat too?
Well, I think so. It's not clear, according to this, it's not clear where the superstition originates. Mm-hmm. Some, however, believe it stems from the biblical Last Supper in which the unlucky 13th guest, Judas, betrayed Jesus.
Really? So it has its roots with Jesus.
That's what it says on the old internet.
Crazy.
Friday the 13th.
Well, happy Friday the 13th.
And to you, Derek, you as well. All right. Big show. We're a little late this week. Lots going on. Some exciting stuff. Big announcement coming out of editorial. We're not going to get into it. You'll read about it.
Yes.
But it's big.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. More to come, as they say.
You're going to see a special voice at Village Media pretty soon.
Very exciting. All right. Let's get right to the first word to Frisco. The cold case story of Lucas Short Reed back in the news, thanks to wonderful reporter Keegan Kozelenka.
Yeah, this is one of those stories that I can't stop reading about. It's everything that comes out and everything Keegan's been writing about it for Guelph Today and Laura Fergus Today I've been reading. This is a tragic story about a young guy, 18 years old, who's run over and killed 15 years ago on a rural road.
Right.
Nobody's any idea what happened. The OPP investigate for years. They're looking at, it was a white neon car, I believe, and so they were looking for leads all around the neighborhood, trying to figure out what happened. They had, over the years, there were various call-outs for information. Then they got a tip last year to look into this couple. And turns out, as we now know, because there was a sentencing hearing, the couple pleaded guilty. So all these details flooded out into court last week about what happened, and Keegan was there covering it. And it was mind-blowing. This couple had their 11-year-old son in the car, ran this kid over. Well, he's 18. Yeah. And told their son that it was a deer, that they hit a deer.
God.
And
kept going.
Went home, went and bought an identical car of the one they had, put their plates on and everything else, and hid the car, I believe in a trailer or something, behind a false wall for years. And the craziest part was, this is a terribly tragic story for the family. But what the craziest part for me was, years ago the OPP actually approached them to ask to use their car in a video they were making to try to trigger clues, like a public announcement.
Yeah.
And they said, sure, yeah, use our car. It's just a horrible story, right? And I just feel for the family, hearts go to the family's been waiting for years for some answers. They told reporters, including Keegan, that they feel like they finally have some closure. They know what happened.
Right.
But how do you go on living your life after doing something like that and just moving along, and you raise your own kids? No conscience, right? And I guess there were wiretaps. They heard him talking to one of his kids on the phone about it. Just atrocious to me. Wow. I don't know.
All right. To Sudbury we go in our publication, Northern Ontario Business, and Ian Ross continuing to follow the story of the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, the Ring of Fire, as we know, a lot of controversy has been controversy for years, where to build roads and to extract the resources there. And Ian at Northern Ontario Business has been covering it in all kinds of different ways. We did a beautiful story about an Anishinaabe filmmaker who's working on a piece. Right. It was released a film about the Ring of Fire, and just speaking to all the different voices and just how complicated, how complex it is. and how there are no simple answers to it. And if you're interested in what's going on up there, it's definitely worth the read. Northern Ontario Business.
All right, let's stay in Sudbury in a story that just broke earlier this week from reporter Jenny Lamotte. The City Council in Sudbury has voted down the construction of a public washroom in the downtown area for those who are homeless.
Yeah, and it was a great piece of reporting because the news out of the City Council was that, no, we're not going to build a public bathroom downtown, too many problems that it could cause. So Jenny went out and tried to find out how people use the bathroom when they're struggling, they're living rough on the streets, especially women who need some privacy. And it's a heartbreaking story in so many ways. Like, it's just something we don't think about, right? A lot of people can turn a blind eye and not think about that situation. But you have this population of people in the downtown core in Sudbury who have nowhere to go to the bathroom or use the washroom. And it's likely the same in all our communities. And so it's just a good, we always talk about shining a spotlight on things. It's an important story, and I'm hoping that it triggers some more discussion in Sudbury and people kind of come up with some solution to this issue. All
right, the first word to Frisco. Okay, today on Inside the Village, Jordan Guildford is going to join us. Jordan's the founder and CEO of Gems for Gems and more importantly, Hope's Cradle, and it's just a wonderful program.
Yeah, this is a program where mothers are allowed to it gives them a place to safely drop their baby if they have issues. We've seen tragic stories of babies being left behind in terrible places, and this initiative kind of grew out of that, a place to safely, no questions asked, drop your child. They started in Alberta, I believe. We're going to talk to her about that. But they have expanded to Ontario. I believe there's one in Southern Ontario, and the City Council in Sault Ste. Marie recently voted to look into the issue about potentially doing it here. So we're going to chat with her and find out how it all started and how it's going.
All right, Jordan's in Calgary, and she joins us next when Inside the Village returns right after this.
Reporters, editors, and journalists who go the extra mile to get the story and get it right. Go behind the scenes with those who cover the stories that matter most to you and your community. Look for it in the Village Features section of your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Welcome back to Inside the Village. I'm Scott Sexsmith alongside Village Media's editor-in-chief, Michael Friscolanti. We're joined on the line right now by Jordan Guildford. Jordan is the founder and CEO of Gems for Gems and Hope's Cradle. Jordan, welcome to Inside the Village. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about Hope's Cradle. What prompted you to create it, and how does it work?
Sure. So Hope's Cradle was actually initiated back in 2019, and then of course the world stopped turning for a few years. But initially, our board chair, who's a homicide detective, came to me asking if there was anything that I thought Gems for Gems could do about the tragedy that often was happening in Calgary, where babies were found in ditches and dumpsters, alleys, and other things like that. And of course, as a homicide detective, when the babies were found, they were usually deceased, which meant they were his cases. So obviously very sad. So he came to me asking if I thought Gems could do anything about it. And I had actually independently been looking into solutions like the baby boxes in the States and other alternatives in Germany as well, because of the cases that were growing in Calgary as well. So when he brought it up, I said, absolutely. And we put our heads together, pitched it to the board, and they said, yes, absolutely. So we got to work. Initially, what we wanted to be able to do was bring cradles to hospitals in Calgary. But of course, with it being 2020, probably the worst time in history to try to be working on something additional with the hospitals. So we worked at that for about 2 years. The hospitals kept saying, yes, this is a great idea. We love it, but not now, not now, not now. Then, of course, the babies continued to come in. And eventually I had enough of waiting, and I started looking at alternative options. And as soon as I did that, I was connected with a wonderful man called Captain Eric Alexander out of the Strathmore fire station. And he had also been wanting to be able to do something like this. And we were kind of each other's missing pieces. So we, within 5 months of meeting each other, we had our first cradle across the line in the Strathmore fire station.
That's amazing. Can you describe it for us? How does it work?
So essentially it is there's a door that's about 2 feet by 3 feet outside of the fire station, and it doesn't have to be in fire stations, but most of ours have been to date. There's instructions on the door, so that when typically it's the birth mother that would be utilizing the cradles, when the birth mother walks up to the door, she sees the step-by-step so that there's no surprises. She opens the door, and when she opens the door, a silent alarm goes off and notifies the fire station dispatch or third party, or however it sets up, and it's sometimes different per location. Sometimes they use a third party alarm system. Other times they use what's called a ProTalk, which is a local Calgary company that we work with for that. But a silent alarm goes off, but it does start the clock ticking. So although it's not alarming the mother, it does mean that everyone that's needed to be able to come help the baby has been alerted and is on their way. So when she opens the door, she sees a bassinet, and the baby is placed in the bassinet. There's a camera pointing at the bassinet, but there is no camera pointing in any direction that could identify the mother. And there's an envelope in there that says birth mother on it. In the envelope has resources for the birth mother's mental health and postnatal care, for resources around wherever the cradle is located. Our psychologist's information is there, so that if she would like help being able to identify the areas that she needs help in, that's there for her as well as a medical form for her to fill out information about the birth father, her medical health, her medical history, any family information that she would like to share. And then there's also a guided letter that she can send in her final words to her baby. And so the envelope is addressed to the location of the cradle, and the postage has already been paid on it as well. So the birth mother doesn't have to worry about that either. So after about 2 minutes, there's a secondary alarm, and this one is audible. And that's just to let her know that someone is very close to coming. We're trying to make this as compassionate for both sides of the equation as we possibly can. So we don't want the birth mother saying goodbye and having a firefighter open the other side of the cradle during that type of time. So she's given that secondary alarm. She closes the door locks and cannot be reopened. And then within a minute or two, someone will be there.
That's amazing.
It is. How often is this happening, Jordan?
Well, legal reasons, I can't tell you how often our cradles have been used, simply because we don't have enough. Right now, if I was to say who or that
Yes.
one was utilized, it would be kind of counterproductive as far as keeping the anonymity there. Mm-hmm. But we are very happy with with the progress that we're seeing as far as the impact in the communities with our cradles. And it's easier to kind of talk numbers with regards to the states. For instance, since 1999, I believe almost 5,000 babies have been saved via cradles like this. So it's really our organization's goal to be able to have Hope's Cradles everywhere, so that it's a resource for everyone.
But it's safe to say mothers have used this service. Is that, am I allowed to ask that? Yeah.
Thousands of
Sorry, in Canada, I mean, in Alberta. And,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Not thousands, though.
No.
So, Jordan, you obviously started in Calgary. Now you've expanded to Ontario. Where do you have them here?
So in Ontario, we're working with Clarington. We've already built one in Clarington, which is very exciting, and we're looking for a launch hopefully in November. Sault Ste. Marie is speaking with us, and Pickering has also committed as well. We're having some other discussions with other areas as well. Niagara is one of them, and up north in a few different communities up there too are talking with us, but those are the ones that are confirmed.
How's the reaction been from the public? Do some people say, "Oh, I don't understand why we need this," or what do people who aren't as well aware of this issue as you are? What do they say to you?
There's a variety of responses, as I'm sure you can imagine. About 99.9% of them are really positive. Of the negative ones, the main negative one is that they wish this wasn't a necessity, which so do we. Mm-hmm. But then when you get kind of further into it, the more negative ones, one is that it's violating the child's right to know their parents. And we don't argue with the child's right to know her parents, but the bottom line is that we're fighting for the child's right for their heart to keep beating. Mm-hmm. So if the heart is not continuing to beat, all other rights are kind of secondary. And these are, the interesting thing here is that these are all what I call viable babies. So they're full-term babies that were delivered and are able to survive with care. So for me, that's where we start, and that's really what we're focused on, being able to protect that.
Jordan, I know you can't get into specifics because of the legal reasons that you alluded to, but can you kind of give us some broad success stories and speak to that?
Yeah, what I can speak to is kind of the type of women that are looking for this and why it's important.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is a lot of trafficked women and women in abusive situations. And the important thing here is that sometimes the anonymity can polarize the public, where some people feel that when there's anonymity, they're not taking responsibility, they're getting away scot-free. That's another one that keeps coming up. But what we need to understand is that we don't understand. And some of the stories that we're hearing are things like the babies being utilized to make the trafficked girls do things. Sometimes the babies themselves are being sexually exploited. And especially for young girls or for anyone in that type of situation, I can't imagine seeing this little baby that you just brought into the world being utilized like that. And some of the women genuinely believe the baby's better off dead than going through that. And I think it's really easy to villainize the mothers, but I think, again, we need to be grounded in the fact that we cannot understand what they're going through, and we just need to meet them where they're at and provide this anonymous option, because all other anonymous options are unsafe.
Yeah, and really, I don't grasp that, why people would think that. I mean, to me, as your goal is 100% to save the child, right? If you can figure out a way that this baby's going to live and thrive and have a better life than they might have had otherwise, I don't understand why people would disagree with that. But I guess people are funny. Where
the polarizing comes is where the sense of justice comes in, and I just think we need to be above that. And really focus on the baby.
If I'm reading the story, you mentioned Sault Ste. Marie is looking at this possibility. We run Sault today, which is one of the local sites we have, and they've written about it. And one of the things that interests me is that a mother can come back within 30 days and say, I made a mistake. And how would they do that? That information is in the envelope you leave with them?
Yes, there is information in the envelope, but this is something that I really love about that. And it's kind of moving along the lines of what happens with adoption. So with adoption, there's 30 days to be able to change their mind, and it changes per province. But we are moving forward with that 30-day policy. And the concept with this, again, if we go back to women surviving or existing in abuse, they have that time, that grace period, if the baby is in imminent danger, to be able to place their baby here anonymously, find safety, make a situation that the baby can exist in, and then come back for their baby as well. And to date, we haven't had anyone use the cradles for that, but I hope that someday it does get used for that, because you hear too many times that a mother knew her baby was in danger, and then the baby ends up passing away because of some horrific thing happening to it. And I hope that our cradles get utilized for this as well.
Jordan, how gratifying is this for you? I mean, like you said, you worked a long time trying to make this happen, and now you're seeing it expand. Actually, it's growing into other cities. How gratifying is that for you?
It's wonderful, but it's one step in the right direction. And I'm excited about that step, but I'm aware of how much larger it must be in order for us to be able to start getting the numbers like what we're seeing in Germany and in the States. And to me, it is a when, not an if, the next baby is found in anyone's area. And the thing is that a lot of rural locations, for instance, feel that they don't need this type of service there. But the thing is that most of the babies that are found in cities are found via homeless people looking for food. And if you have rural areas, there's just not the same amount of dumpsters, the same amount of people going dumpster diving, and the babies just aren't found. It's not that it's not happening, they're just not being found. So I think we really need to have a clear concept of the magnitude of this and keep focused on where we need to go.
Jordan, before we let you go, is there anything else about Hope's Cradle or Gems for Gems that you'd like to mention that we didn't touch on?
Well, I just really love to be able to leave you with that parting message of it is a when, not an if. And I would like people to understand that for their communities and understand that bringing a Hope's Cradle is not difficult. And now that we know better, I think we need to understand we must do better.
Well, you're doing amazing work in Calgary and now transitioning to our province. We're happy to have you here and certainly hopeful that you can expand everywhere there is a need. Jordan, thanks for doing this today.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
For the latest in in-depth features and enterprise journalism from your local writers at Village Media, be sure to check out The Big Read. The Big Read. It's the full story behind the headlines. Look for The Big Read on your favorite Village Media website across Ontario.
Back to wrap on Inside the Village for this Friday, October the 13th, 2023. With Frisco Derek and yours truly, Scott Sexton. With Jordan Guildford, founder, CEO, Gems for Gems and Hope's Cradle. Wow, that is powerful stuff.
Yeah, so I was just saying to you guys, the thing about it is I had no idea that even existed. I mean, obviously we don't live in Alberta, so we don't often hear stuff going on. But when I read David Helwig's article on Sault Ste. That evening, I was like, what? Like, yeah. I thought, are we going to break ground? Are we going to be the first city that does this? And sure enough, no, it's already in somewhere else in Ontario. It's been in Alberta for a few years. And just hearing her talk about hearing Jordan talk about how there were cases of babies being left behind in terrible ways and terrible places, and that there is a need for this. And like she said, she can't get into numbers for privacy reasons. Of course, yeah. But the fact that this is happening in our country, I think a lot of people just have no idea. I didn't.
No, we talked during the break that it's like Hollywood coming to life, right? How many television shows and movies have we watched where there's scenes where babies are left in bassinets on the steps of the local fire hall? Yeah. And it's really happening.
And typical movie style, they always look great. The kids look good. But this is this is the harsh reality, right? Yeah. And you know what? We need less judgment in this world, right? So here's an opportunity where you can have someone protect the child who's so innocent and has no hope on their own, and being able to have a place to drop them. To me, it makes total sense. Sure, we wouldn't want to. That we're sad that we need that in this world, in this country, but man, it's all about the kid, the protection of the kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to have a quick peek here because I know that they have a website, and gemsforgems.com. Have a look. If there's a donate button, I mean, do it. They're just doing some wonderful work, and great to have them here in the province of Ontario, and who knows, maybe in Sault Ste. Marie in the very near future.
Yeah, and if you Google Sault today and Hope's Cradle, you can read our coverage of how it's going to work. And I believe the Sault City Council voted unanimously to look into the issue. So for me, it makes total sense.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Inside the Village. .ca if you want to find back episodes across the Village Media Network, and reach out to us. Happy to hear from you. itv@villagemedia.ca. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'd love to hear from the audience, and certainly this is an important topic, so we'd love to get your feedback on that and other things. Have a great weekend. We're back next week. Derek, thank you. Thank you, Frisco, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching Inside the Village.
You've been listening to Inside the Village.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe, provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.